Howdy people, CzarThwomp here, and welcome to episode 21 of the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. Last time, we met our client, Magnus McGilded, who is in no way an evil man. And we also met our rival prosecutor, Barack Van Zieks, who basically is essentially Edgeworth .5, this time more posh. And who basically is our rival prosecutor, who basically, people die after they encounter him. Yes, he has the posh Edgeworth bow. I leave that to your imagination, my lord. So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? I want to make your life a living hell. Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruto.
As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity.
We must be the only ones in here who aren't aware.
Behold my fancy-ass scroll. Screw paper is for the commoners. I only read from parchments. The incident took place in the late evening. 3 days passed. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks, known in the community as Thrice Fried Mason.
Sorry, thrice?
He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fried were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen and is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here is the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard, which I have had the decency, went ahead and updated. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence.
The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. The photograph of the crime scene has been entered into the court record.
And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... Good lord! Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested.
Seriously, just without Barack Van Zieks I just can't help but picture this guy being Edgeworth's ancestor. Basically, Edgeworth getting his whole stern flair from this guy. That's where it came from. That's why he took so well to the Von Karma way of life. This is why Edgeworth was basically not all that fazed by being raised by a vampire man, because he was raised by the original vampire man. Really, Barack Van Zieks feels like the villain from a Castlevania game. What? Mr. McGilded's gloves had blood on them?
Yes, I will accept these as evidence as well.
The defendant's leather gloves have been entered into the court record. How did I get into this? I want to check the gloves out. This is definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our first day in London. Well, nothing will come of grumbling now. No. By the way, is Mr. McGilded right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier. Ah, pity. If only he'd been left-handed. I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really. What if he was ambi? What if he's ambi? We don't know. I'm backed into a corner before I even started.
Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time.
Only 2?
Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilden. Notice how elegantly I point. I know how to point like a refined gentleman. Well, rather damning circumstances to say the least. Defendant, what say you?
Well, of course, I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilden! To be sure, I rode her the omnibus that evening, but whether I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it.
Are you claiming to have been asleep?
'Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord, blatant. So it is, and when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me. The body of a man I'd never laid eyes on was before me life. Now I ask yous, what good on it so wouldn't rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? Or I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got into his gloves then, after the man had been killed.
Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning.
What? That's not all of it?
There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed.
Just fist slam.
Order! 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 When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage.
Oh, you don't know how good this feels on my throat. Instead of having to do the screechy pain voice. Ugh.
And there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused, and I should know a few things about coffins. After all, I sleep in one. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in at once. Behold one of our witnesses, a man who is on the verge of death. Witnesses, your name and occupations.
My name is, well, everyone calls me Beepo. I don't know why. Beepo has feelings too. I drive an omnibus in the East End.
Bruce Fairplay, I'm a banker in the city.
My name is First, Lady First. I make hats for gents, and I simp for the ladies. I call them queens, and I treat them with kindness. One day I'll escape the friend zone, mind you. One day I'll escape the friend zone. You just got to believe in me. I also collect ladies' bathwater as a side job.
Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witnessed the aforementioned incident. Is that correct?
Yes, sir!
Quite right.
Yes, sir. That's right, sir.
Very well then, let's proceed with your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw.
Witness testimony. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well.
The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then, out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts.
That's right. He stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus and I saw too.
Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes.
I'd like to ask a question if I may.
Yes, counsel?
Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
That's not a question, that's a statement. Why not?
Well, The incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it?
As has been clearly stated from the onset, yes.
Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses properly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have been seen in the inside of the moving carriage.
How quaint. I read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Our kick-ass omnibuses?
Huh?
Tell me, my Nipponese friend. Have you even traveled in an omnibus? Have you ever heard of an omnibus? Have you ever grasped the concept of an omnibus?
Well, no. We only arrived in London this morning.
No matter. I've arranged for us to all see for ourselves. The actual scene of the crime, that is.
What do you mean? The actual scene? How?
Our carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much.
Yes.
The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place in is here today, in this very building.
Here? What? The entire carriage?
Bailiff! Bring forth the stricken omnibus!
So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing.
As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. 4 passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus.
Yeah, along with all the wind. Oh, that would just mess up my sinuses if I rode on one of those things. I swear, I can't be in an open-topped car because the wind just gets in my face, it burns my eyes, it makes my nose runny. Oh, it's horrible.
And I should point out to these our foreign guests.
Oh, and not to mention it would be cold that evening. Oh, that cold, that's a sinus infection waiting to happen right there. You ever get, really, for me, I get cold wind in my face. Just decent cold wind in my face, I get screwed with a sinus infection. It's horrible.
And I should point out for our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view from the interior from the seats above.
A skylight. Oh!
The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats of this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident, although through the skylight.
That makes perfect sense.
Well, Counsel, this is the first. In all my years beyond the bench, I never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside this carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish. Very well, I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence.
The omnibus has been entered into the court record. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence. Yeah, can we go in the omnibus? Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? The scene of a murder. It's horrible.
Why is the defense going inside the omnibus? The Omnibus 9000.
Yeah, notice that skylight. It's quite a large skylight, isn't it? Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catcher of any description. So I suppose it can't be opened from inside the cabin at the least. That's blood. That blood soaked into the seat. The victim's obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab someone in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark, and there was a lamp in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Okay, search around. This seat has a handle, it seems. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding tubs, tools to repair wheels, blankets, horse shoveling tools. So this storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things, it seems. There doesn't appear to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage, that's for sure. Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyways. The sign. Ah, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. There's a lot of folks being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the World Exposition. Oh, the Crystal Tower! It's under construction already, I believe. And then Sherlock, I must protect the Crystal Tower from all the attacks! I must protect it from Naruto! People all over London must be fizzling with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here.
Let us continue with proceedings then. Your cross-examination, counsel. Pray don't expect this Nipponese stray to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights.
Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Ryunosuke. Focus. Yeah, and I love how they just shift the entire cross-examination panel. Okay, last bus of the evening.
Hold it!
Yes, I think it's somewhere after 10, wasn't it? Oh, yes, sir! That's right, sir. Ever so cold it was. Freezing, in fact. I was on the verge of death, just like I am now. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time. Is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling at the same bus to the bus, of course, but,
And there were no other passengers when the incident took place. No one allied, for example.
You're quite right, sir. No other passengers like that. No, sir. So nobody fled the scene of the crime then? I have to say, the boss insists on it running. He does. Every evening. The last bus of the day. I feel like I'm going to die. Please help me. Help people! But I do want to say that it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, this is hard to say. What do you mean by that? Well, that's why it would be so cold and everything. And only be making toy beds on the run, you see. Yes, I spend that much on the way home, just try to warm up again. Inside the bus. And you saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage. That's right. When you sit up on the top deck, the window's right at your feet. There was a lamp inside, so I had a pretty good view. The 2 of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't make out exactly their faces, but there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? Mr. McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. Yeah. Okay, careful who you're saying this to, buddy. Coming because I'm 5'6". Doesn't. Yeah, you want to insinuate something about the less than average heighted male? You want to insinuate things, buddy? Because I can insinuate things about you and your big ass top hats. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget that when the victim came to a halt, there were only 2 people inside the cabin. Well, the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded. There's no room for doubt there. I really wish there was. actually saw the exact moment it happened?
Didn't I already testify to that? Or fair dinkum hard-working city bankers not considered trustworthy these days?
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. This is no good. I really gotta back this up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord! My lord!
Jury number 3, what's the meaning of this?
My mind is made up, my lord! Completely and utterly made up! The voices have decided! Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. That's why I slit their throats in the back alley. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. I'll claim his pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter, anyways.
That is precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it is my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors. Guilty! By killing his ass.
What the? What's happening here? Let me see. Yes, it seems that how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Well, that's why I'm very much to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before.
Very well. The court acknowledges the charge and the jury stands. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination.
This is a nightmare.
Hold it!
He stabbed him, you say, and you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing that little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I'd be thinking about a few hat designs, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to be looking down through the skylight. It was sticking right out of his belly, that huge great knife.
A grim sight indeed.
That didn't help me at all. The jury looks like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before. That appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGill is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions.
Mr. First!
Oh, yes, sir?
Is this the knife you saw?
Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. The very one, sir. Is that?
Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. I should know. I have had several people trying to shove a stake through my heart. That is a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is. And furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar, because no one in the city dare has a name of M. And then Mouse Stormheart is basically like, he's just sweating. Yeah, I don't know anyone whose name starts with an M. Please, no. M for Magnus, perhaps? Or McGilded, possibly? Take your pick. It seems this particularly big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection!
But there are M's everywhere. Yes, like in Mason.
Objection!
Notice my fancy objection text. Your argument is invalid. This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. How dare the brickmaker have nice things? He does nothing. No! This is a weapon of murder and will certainly belong to the accused.
Is it such a grind to own a lavish knife? I appreciate the finer things in life.
Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, Counsel.
The murder weapon has been added. My lord, if you will forgive the interruption.
Ah, juror number 2, go on.
Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman, and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths.
Wait, what are you about to do?
Dispose of the rubbish.
No!
I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion. Not again! That's 4 out of the 6 jury members who proposed that guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We had it. Every time I press these witnesses more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at this moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We must give hope, and that will uncover something. That will give us a way to fight back. But all right, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again.
Hold it!
What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be the man, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was.
And by passenger, obviously you are referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker.
And the other passenger that had the knife in his hand, like this.
By the other passenger, obviously you are referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded.
And the plunging down like this. Having the other passenger in the belly. What?
My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5, do I take it you too? As the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of these carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. What's even more abhorrent is the fact that Beepo is apparently complaining about the late night shift. What the hell, Beepo? Why are you complaining about your nightly shift? Really, Beepo? You will take your shift.
Beepo wants freedom!
Beepo gets no freedom. It would be right to make a decision based before hearing all the facts, though I say to myself, guilty. But I've heard it up now. The horse is bolted, as they say. No, please, just keep an open mind a little. Get up now, Silver Blaze, if the finish is in sight. Beepo is the long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. And even though Beepo's a piece of crap, Beepo's complaining.
Beepo is nearly on the verge of death!
Beepo is gonna profit us until he dies.
Maybe tomorrow. I'm on the verge of death. Please help. Please give Beepo some. Let Beepo own a shirt. Beepo's coat is not thick enough.
Beepo gets no clothing. Beepo gets no shirt.
Beepo want a sweater.
Beepo gets no sweater.
What is going on here? What is with this back and forth? Beepo is treated like an animal. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind to Beepo. Save Beepo. Oh, this is too unkind, sir.
Which now means that 5 jurors agreed to condemn this man. Come, old lady, join the winning team. Madam juror number 6, what the hell? Why are you resisting me?
Yes, dear. What can I do for you?
Please give my guilty verdict. I want to go home to my castle and suck the blood from my blood chalice. You have heard the testimonies of the witness in the stand, and CzarThwomp's headphones came off. Hooray!
Oh yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know, and CzarThwomp's headphones are coming off.
Then, pray tell, why are you yet to announce your leaning?
Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habits, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoner's face, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life.
Can we see the juror information?
He's always doing wonderful things for the city! That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely!
Mother made me go to McGilded Public Library later.
Impossible works. I own the library. I own all the knowledge.
How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do people not know? What kind of man Magnus McGilded really is?
What kind of man is he?
The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase this entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls.
What?
So the crows!
This McGilded lends money at extraordinary rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak.
I never heard any mention of that before.
Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madame. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have to make use of a public omnibus service?
Or is it a crime for me to talk with the people? I am a man of the common folk. I like looking at the common people and talking to the common people and throwing rocks out of the public omnibus. I can't store the eggs that I toss at young children inside my own carriage. They could break and the carriage would smell. You're not saying that.
The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name, save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debts. Good gracious! The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house, he had not a shilling with which to pay his debts. And in the end, this pitiable soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist, pretender, Magnus McGilded!
I don't believe it.
If I might add something briefly.
Mr. Sato!
You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded, but where is the evidence to support that claim?
Oh, I have all the evidence I need right here, in my head. I am a vampire with wine. I have a freaking goblet of wine. Your argument is invalid. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law. Behold the blood chalice. Aha! There it is! The blood chalice! Lord Von Zieg's hallowed chalice!
He's acting like it's the freaking Holy Grail! How can this be considered acceptable?
But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself.
As a judicial assistant to the defense, I am simply doing my job.
What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside, along with several skull and crossbones next to his name, along with the phrase, kill him, he should die, kill him, throw him in his body in the Thames, kill him, I will bury him in my park to fertilize the flowering trees in red ink. And a hint of blood.
Ow!
Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. A marvelous toast, Council. I will gladly accept this new evidence.
The debtor's ledger has been entered.
Ah yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum.
This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry.
Oh dear, do you really think we all look inside?
Well, it's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder.
I assure you we will not find Mr. Sholmes' name inside. You know he doesn't trust the banks. He doesn't trust the money loaner. He doesn't trust loan offices. He doesn't trust anyone. He keeps all of his money in a mattress in his flat. Underneath all of his bags of opium.
Well, let's see what we find.
Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it?
Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off.
Ah, goodness!
What is it?
Look at this! Do you see this name here?
Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually.
Bruce Fairplay! The witness said something at this very moment!
Oh yes, of course! The banker! Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching.
It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course. But this could very be useful information.
Updated.
And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense.
Well, it would seem I've had the whirlpool over my eyes.
Regrettably, madam, but that is the modus operandi of the accused.
And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel! Still, maybe he'll be buried underneath his park. Maybe it's all for the best.
Ah, well, wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before.
I don't stand for nonsense.
I have been screwed! That was it. The last juror's decision.
According to this encyclopedia of British law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and its sentence. That's what it says here.
The final verdict. It's over then.
Oh! There's a footnote, though.
A footnote?
However, the defense...
All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial,
And I think I'll now conclude the episode. Anyways, I really appreciate that you stuck around to watch this episode. You're a great viewer, and I'll be coming for the next one. If you like this video, like, subscribe, comment, share, do whatever you want. I'll see you next time. Bye.